Welcome back to Front Range Aquascapes. This week, you're not going to see too much of me. When we're looking at the other tanks, you may see a little bit of me, but this week we're just going to be focusing on the tanks themselves and giving an update. If you've been watching, you know that this is my Boulder Field scape. This is about 2 months in. It's been 2 weeks now with the new light that I did an abysmal review on. We'll go through and do something better on this light shortly. But anyway, this tank, since I've put the new light in, all of the plants have grown in amazing. I had to trim some of the chain swords back here because they were just going to take over the entire tank. I also trimmed out some of the pearlweed for another scape that you guys will see sometime. I also trimmed back a lot of the Bacopa monari. You'll notice that I've got some floating water wisteria, as well as the fact that I need to trim my water wisteria because it's up at the surface. But I have the floating water wisteria and am letting the plants go to the top because I don't know how well you can see, but this tank is just loaded with fry right now. My guppies, I guess, got comfortable. But you can see all of the amazing growth in the crypts and the reds and the bronzes coming out in it. More crypts. Got the dwarf sage just popping off like crazy right there. I did have a snail outbreak because, I'll be honest, I was feeding pretty heavily due to all of the fry. And I guess I cut back feeding, and they started eating my plants. So you'll see that my Scarlet Temple, some of them are looking kind of sad, but I used slices of cucumber to go ahead and get rid of the vast majority of the snails in this tank, and I'm just going to be cutting back on the feeding. As we go through this, I just want to be 100% transparent and real with you guys. I have problems just like everybody else. You use the right substrate, you use the right fertilizers, everything like that, and then you still overfeed, get a snail outbreak, the snails start eating your beautiful plants. It happens. We all screw up a little bit. But there's no algae in this tank. I have the light on for 9 hours a day at 75% intensity. And as you can see, I mean, everything is just absolutely beautiful and vibrant and growing. This tank is just one of my favorite tanks that I've ever done. I do need to go in and do a little bit of upkeep, but I'm going to let these fry grow out just a little bit. Then again, there's 3 guppies in there, so I'm probably going to have perpetual fry, and I'm just going to have to go in and trim. But eventually I am going to trim the water wisteria and probably cut back a lot more of the pearlweed. But I think that's a pretty good update on this tank. I will shut up and just let you enjoy the tank for a moment. Alright, and here we are with the Paradise Valley tank, and this tank is just doing absolutely beautiful. Other than, if you look really closely, you can see I have a little bit of a staghorn algae issue. And it's not real bad, but I've gone ahead and turned the lights down to 6 hours a day on this tank. I had them on for 10 hours a day, and that's obviously too much. So we're going to go ahead and cut the lighting down to 6 hours a day. I just started that today, and while I am here, we're going to go ahead and pull some of the staghorn out just using a cheap like $1.99 toothbrush. And all the fish think that I'm going to feed them. Oops. And there came a piece of Hygrophila polysperma. We'll put that somewhere. Well, you get the idea. I will come back after the video and finish that up. But as you can see, the paradise fish that are in there are just absolutely gorgeous. All of the tetras are doing really, really good. There is still more aggression in this tank than I would like, which means that, well, a lot of these fish are going to be going in other scapes that I have that I'm setting up currently. Yeah, that's basically it. Is I'm just going to have to end up rehoming a lot of these fish into other tanks that I have. And here we are with the Protector of the Pearls tank, and believe it or not, I do trim the pearl weed. It is just going absolutely bananas in this tank and is ready for another trim. You know what? I may even do that in this video because I also want to go ahead and pull out this Val right here and this runner. I did not think that was Val. I thought it was dwarf sag like this. But it was not dwarf sag. No, it was not. So I'm going to pull that out. And then, like I said, I want to go ahead and trim down the pearl weed, replant a bunch of it, put a bunch of it in another tank that I have set up. But yeah, this tank, again, starting to get some staghorn growing in the moss. So once again, turned it down to 6 hours a day, implemented that today, and I'm going to go through with my handy dandy toothbrush in this tank as well and just get as much of this crap out as I can without scaring the crap out of my fish. The autos don't care, really. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And I'm trying to get as much of the algae without taking off all of my moss. Oh yeah, and that's a new addition, is you guys hadn't seen that I added 3 auto-sinkless catfish to this tank. That way I have 3 autos in all of my setup tanks currently, just to help out with algae control and extra food control, you know. And then I also have just entirely too many floating plants in this tank. So I'll probably end up pulling out some of the duckweed. Although I don't know. The duckweed is helping soak up extra nutrients. You know, I always have... I'm not saying that I only have staghorn outbreaks in tanks with wood in them, because obviously I don't, because the tank next to it is nothing but stone, and it has a light outbreak as well. But I do find that I have worse staghorn outbreaks when I have wood in the tanks. I don't know if that's... I don't know if that's because of the wood or what. It's just something that I've noticed personally. Okay, I'm gonna go get some supplies ready to trim, and we'll get back to this here in just a moment. We're back. It's actually been a couple of days, but we are back, and I am going to go ahead and trim this pearlweed as promised, and remove this valve, maybe that's all the valve I'll remove. I don't know. We'll see. So I've gone ahead and trimmed everything down to about a level that I want it to. I see that I missed a couple of stragglers, but honestly it's okay. I am going for kind of a wild look in this tank, so. But I am going to go ahead and take some of my cuttings and replant them over here where it's just not quite as dense yet. So I'm pretty happy with how I've replanted it in. It will continue to grow in. Let me just make sure that you guys are good and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and collect up the rest of this pearlweed that I've trimmed that's floating absolutely everywhere. There we go. Got the vast majority of the pearlweed out. And now we're going to go in and try to get rid of some of this algae again. And totally freak my fish out. Now we're just going to go ahead and finish up with a quick water change and top off with some fresh water. That's about as much of a water change as I want to do. But I did notice a couple of things that I would like to do. because this is just getting problematic, and there's still some glued to the wood, so it will grow in on its own. And because there's so much algae in that, it's going in the garbage. Also, while I have a little water out of the tank, I am going to go ahead and spot treat a little bit with Excel to get rid of some of this algae. And there we go, we've gone ahead and topped it back off. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scoop or two of duckweed out of here. I don't mind it in this tank, but it has gotten to be a little much. And we'll try to leave the floaters. Alright, well, there we've had an update on all of the tanks, as well as a little bit of upkeep on this one, and showing you that my tanks are not perfect. I get algae blooms just like everybody else. We'll just see if we can't combat them the correct way through light, less feeding. Yeah, I broke out a little bit of chemical warfare today with the CChem Excel, but we'll see if we can't get this under control. But I just wanted to give everybody an update on how my tanks were. And there we go. That is the end of this episode of Front Range Aquascapes. As this year comes to an end and the holiday season is upon us, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you, the 31 of you who have found me interesting enough to subscribe or have pity subscribed or whatever. You know what? I don't care. It's cool. And to the hundreds of others who have watched my videos, I just want to say thank you. And here's looking forward to 2024, doing big things and really growing and expanding the channel and the fish room, and my knowledge of being a fish keeper in general. Once again, thank you for watching Front Range Aquascapes. I want to wish every single one of you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, joyous Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. I just want to wish you a happy one. See you on the next episode of Front Range Aquascapes.